Okay, I'll sit right here. Hello everyone. Welcome back to Is You Know It Fitness. Today I will be discussing creatine. Now, my videos are very long normally, so I have a schedule here, what I'm going to talk about. So hopefully we can get this done pretty quickly before my camera runs out of space again. Alright, so what is creatine? Creatine is a molecule that's produced in our bodies as well as the bodies of animals that basically takes part in a process for producing energy for multiple tissues in the body, not just muscles. Is that it's very involved in processes in the brain and can potentially be used to treat cognitive deteriorating diseases. But anyway, we're here to talk about muscles. But yes, so this is it's a molecule that's used in our brains, in our muscles, and other parts of our bodies. It's not something that's foreign. It's not a chemical that's not natural. It's naturally produced in our bodies. Is it safe? Some people have concerns about the creatine damaging kidneys. That's the biggest concern. Creatine is one of the most tested and studied supplements out on the market right now, and it's very safe. I'm going to put a study in the description where basically there was a man, they studied the use of creatine on him, and he has one kidney who's slightly damaged already, and he was on a regular creatine supplementation and it did not affect him at all. And yeah, that's a real study. It's in the description below. So like I said before, creatine is produced in our bodies already. So why do we need to supplement it? Well, we produce a very small amount, and if you have a vegetarian diet or vegan diet, especially vegan diet, you're not taking in any more creatine from your diet because you're only getting it from animal products. If you're vegetarian, you eat eggs, then yeah, you get a little bit there, but it's still very small. And even a regular diet with meat in it, you're still not getting creatine at a level that will give you a boost in the gym more than somebody. You would need to eat 1 kilogram a day of raw meat basically to get 5 grams of creatine. If you know a little bit about creatine, you probably heard that there is a thing called loading creatine. Now what loading creatine is when people basically take, they might do this when they first get creatine. You take basically 10 times as much creatine as your maintenance amount of supplementation of creatine. And so what that amount would be is 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight. So 82 kilograms is approximately 180 pounds. So if you're 180 pounds, you would take, because you're 82 kilograms, 82 times 0.3 gives you about 25 grams. So you would take 25 grams of creatine for a week, 5 to 7 to 10 days. That could be your loading period. And so then after that, your maintenance period, you would just take 0.03 grams per kilogram body weight. So again, if you were 82 kilograms, basically 180 pounds, you would take now only 2.5 grams of creatine per day. Now, so the whole loading thing is a very important topic to talk about because some people believe that it's kind of more of a scam put out by creatine companies, because what they're basically getting you to do is use 10 times as much creatine as you would normally take for, say, a week, which basically uses up 7 weeks of your creatine, which honestly, yes, I believe you don't need to do that. I'll tell you about my experience with creatine a little bit later, but I never did a loading phase. I just took it regularly, the maintenance amount. You'll get to it slower than if you were to load for a week. And again, loading hasn't shown to do anything negative to the body, except, again, well, actually I didn't say this before, but you have to drink a lot more water when you're on creatine. Creatine, it brings a lot of water to it, and so when it's inside your muscles, it brings a lot of water to your muscles, which is a good thing. But if you don't drink a lot of water and you just have a bunch of creatine, especially if you're loading, you're taking 10 times as much as you normally would for so many days, that's going to sit in your stomach or in your intestines, and you're going to feel bloated. A lot of people get stomach aches, potentially diarrhea. And again, some people are going to be more affected by that than others. Some people digest it fine. And there's our kinds of creatine, like micronized creatine, which is basically broken down a bit more. It's finer and it's supposed to dissolve better in water. That would be the only other kind I would recommend other than creatine monohydrate, which is the kind of creatine that most studies use. Anyway, I jumped like way off topic. So again, back to loading. You don't need to load. If you want to load, I understand that some people like to load because basically it gets you to that maximum concentration faster. So yeah, what you can expect from supplementing creatine, you might see this was so on average. So these results will vary completely among people. Some people will be affected more by it, some people will be affected less by it. It could also depend on your day and if you're dehydrated. Water hydration seriously affects how well you lift, with creatine even aside. So on average, you might be able to expect you could bench 15 pounds heavier on your max, or a couple more reps on like your 80% bench. Vice versa, your max squat should potentially go up maybe 20 pounds. That was an average. So yes. So again, so why do people take creatine? The goal of taking creatine is not to gain 5 pounds of water weight and just maintain that and look slightly bigger. Even though when I was on creatine, people told me, "Oh yeah, you look a little bit bigger." Like that was like it was a noticeable change in a short period of time. Yeah, you'll look a little bit kind of like, I mean, again, maybe not everybody. It depends how muscular you already are, but it kind of will look a little bit like, potentially for some people, it'll look like you have a little bit of a pump process that creatine uses in your body. This is how it works to benefit you. So for one, so your body gets most of its energy, ATP, from cellular respiration, where your body basically uses glucose from the food you use to make pyruvate, and that goes into the process where it uses oxygen to create ATP, and your body produces most of its energy that way. But one process, and it's an anaerobic process, like the lactic acid process, but it's just with creatine. It's called phosphorylation, where basically creatine a phosphate group from creatine phosphate comes off, attaches to ADP, and makes it, instead of adenosine diphosphate, which is this molecule, once it gets to the third phosphate group, it becomes ATP, adenine triphosphate, which again is the energy molecule that we use to move and lift and run and other processes in the body. So basically, even still, phosphorylation is a very inefficient process. The energy created by it is used during high stress activities, again like sprinting or bench press, squat, and it's used up quickly. So again, the creatine that we take, we're taking like a decently amount more than we would normally have through supplementation, but it's still a small amount in the body, and it's a small energy. It's specifically used for these activities. It should benefit. But the second way that creatine helps is because it brings so much water to it, and the creatine is in your muscles. It brings the water to them, and it hydrates the muscles. So if you're more hydrated, and literally studies have shown that it increases, while you have the higher concentration of creatine, it increases the diameter of your muscle fibers. So literally making them bigger because they're hydrated. And this is how it benefits you in the gym. But the reason you're taking creatine is not to temporarily, or maybe if you continue taking creatine, is not to make your muscles bigger because of creatine. The main reason we take creatine is so that you can lift heavier for how long you're taking it, and by the ability to lift heavier and for on some lifts do a couple more reps. That is the reason you take it. That increase in the ability to perform is what the goal of creatine is. That is what's going to allow you to get stronger. Being temporarily stronger so you can lift heavier to build more muscle that way. That is why we take creatine. So, from that explanation, so again, my experience with creatine. So I took creatine for 2 to 3 months a couple years ago, and like I said before, I gained like 3 to 5 pounds pretty quickly. And so yeah, so people noticed that I had gained some weight, and I did notice a strength increase. I didn't track how much it was, but I was able to perform a little bit better on heavy lifts like bench press. Another thing that people talk about is creatine and caffeine. Do they cancel each other out? That is a real concern apparently, even though I've never heard it before. So there are studies that literally show that taking creatine, there's one study, it'll be in the description below, that shows that basically creatine and caffeine, there was 3 groups, creatine and caffeine, just creatine, and a placebo, were used on a specific exercise, and basically that the creatine and caffeine group performed the same as the placebo. But there are also studies that show the other. Either way, there's not many studies overall that deal with this. If you're really worried about it, then don't take creatine and caffeine at the same time. But there isn't enough evidence to say that it's negative or positive, really. So I don't think anyone should be too worried about it. Another concern potentially is, does creatine affect hair loss? Again, there isn't significant evidence behind this, but you can see from you can check out the studies below, and examine.com goes more deeply into this. Great website. So creatine, there is some evidence that shows that while taking creatine, it may increase the amount your body takes testosterone and converts it to DHT, which is basically a more potent androgen of testosterone. And we know that DHT, going back to creatine in general, most studies are done on creatine monohydrate. So what creatine should you buy? You should get creatine monohydrate. There are a lot of supplements companies that are going to try to trick you, and looking at some new kind of creatine, or there's like creatine ethyl. There's a couple other things out there that have actually been shown to be worse and perform a lot worse than creatine monohydrate. So don't try anything new. Do what the science is based on. Do what the studies, what has been studied the most and what has been shown to work and be safe. So that's creatine monohydrate. Other than that, I would say micronized creatine is fine. Especially, I would only take that if you've taken creatine for a while and you get constant stomach aches. Then yeah, try micronized creatine, but don't try any other fancy kinds of creatine. When it comes to timing, again, creatine, like I said before, it's something we supplement every day to get a concentration in our blood to make things work. It is not a pre-workout, it's not a post-workout. It doesn't matter what time of day you take it, as long as you're supplementing it. Honestly, I wouldn't take it pre-workout, because for some people it is something that sits in your stomach and could potentially give you a stomach ache, make you feel some discomfort, so why take it before workout? You could take it before bed, you could take it in the morning, take it with a meal. And yeah, that's mostly it. Hopefully I can cut this video down and make it not too long. So that's the video, guys, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.